7-year-old Maria Santos was walking home from Roosevelt Elementary School when two unleashed pit bulls, weighing over 80 pounds each, broke free from their neglectful owner's yard and launched a coordinated attack on the defenseless child in broad daylight on Maple Street. The aggressive dogs had been trained for fighting and showed no hesitation as they knocked Maria to the ground, their powerful jaws targeting her small frame, while terrified neighbors watched helplessly from their windows, too scared to intervene against animals that could easily kill an adult. "Help me! Somebody help me!" Maria screamed as the larger pit bull clamped down on her backpack while the second dog circled for position, both animals showing the kind of calculated aggression that comes from training specifically designed to maximize damage and maintain attack until the victim stops moving. That's when thunder rolled down Maple Street. 8 members of the Iron Shield Veterans MC were returning from a charity ride for children's hospitals when club president Jake "Steel" Morrison heard something that made every protective instinct in his combat-trained soul explode into action. The unmistakable sound of a child under attack, combined with the aggressive barking that meant someone was about to die if nobody acted immediately. These battle-hardened warriors were about to face the most dangerous animal rescue of their careers, proving that real courage means charging into mortal danger when innocent life depends on split-second decisions and absolute commitment to protecting those who cannot protect themselves. Would you like to join us for this incredible journey? Subscribe to our channel now so you don't miss what happens next. Chapter 1. When Angels Ride to War. The Iron Shield Veterans Motorcycle Club had been serving the neighborhoods of East Chicago for over 12 years, their membership consisting entirely of military veterans and first responders who had found brotherhood and purpose through their commitment to protecting civilians who faced threats that conventional authorities couldn't adequately address. What had started as weekly rides among former soldiers had evolved into the most respected emergency response organization in Northwest Indiana. Jake "Steel" Morrison, the 45-year-old former Marine Force Recon commander who led the Iron Shield Veterans, was concluding their monthly charity ride to raise funds for children's hospital emergency rooms when his combat-trained hearing detected something that made every alarm in his tactical awareness system detonate simultaneously. The combination of a child's terrified screams and the distinctive sounds of aggressive canine attack was unmistakable to someone who had served in urban warfare environments, where such sounds indicated immediate threats to innocent civilians. "All units, code black emergency," Steele commanded through his helmet radio to the 7 riders behind him. "Child under active attack by aggressive animals. Immediate lethal force intervention required. This is real-world combat, brothers. Someone's about to die if we don't reach them in the next 60 seconds. The response was instantaneous and overwhelming. 8 motorcycles began converging on Maple Street with military precision, their engines creating mechanical thunder that announced the arrival of men who had spent their careers protecting innocent people from threats that exceeded civilian capabilities to handle effectively. Captain Derek "Bulldog" Williams, a former Army military police officer who served as the Iron Shield's tactical coordinator, was first to establish visual contact with what would become the most dangerous animal attack intervention in their organization's history. "Visual confirmed," he radioed with controlled urgency. 7-year-old Hispanic female under active attack by 2 large pit bulls, approximately 85 pounds each. Animals showing coordinated hunting behavior, child is down, civilian bystanders unable to intervene. Through his military-grade tactical optics, Bulldog could see Maria Santos on the ground, while 2 muscular pit bulls maintained their attack with the kind of systematic aggression that indicated they had been specifically trained for fighting. The dogs were working as a team, with one maintaining its grip while the other sought better positioning for maximum damage. "Sweet Jesus," whispered Master Sergeant Rick "Doc" Patterson, a former Navy SEAL medic whose emergency medicine training had included extensive experience with animal attack trauma. Those aren't just aggressive pets, those are weapons. Look at the muscle development and attack coordination. Someone trained those animals to kill, and that little girl is about to die if we don't act right now. Steele felt his marine training engage as he processed the tactical nightmare they were confronting. A child under active attack by two trained fighting dogs represented the kind of impossible rescue scenario that required perfect coordination, immediate lethal force authorization, and the willingness to risk everything to save innocent life against overwhelming biological force. All units, immediate combat intervention protocol, Steele ordered, his force recon training automatically shifting him into urban combat command mode. Priority 1 is child extraction under fire. Priority 2 is neutralizing hostile targets with extreme prejudice. We're going into close quarters combat against biological weapons, and we're bringing that little girl home alive. If you're enjoying the story, write from which city you are listening to in the comments. The 8 Iron Shield veterans who responded to Maria Santos's crisis represented some of the most dangerous and specialized training available to American military forces. Former Force Recon Marines, Army Rangers, Navy SEALs, Green Berets, and military police specialists, all united by their commitment to protecting innocent life, regardless of personal risk or impossible odds. The tactical situation they faced was unprecedented in urban animal control. The 2 pit bulls attacking Maria represented over 160 pounds of muscle, teeth, and fighting instinct that had been deliberately conditioned to maintain attack until their target stopped moving. Traditional animal control had no equipment or training to address coordinated attacks by fighting dogs in residential areas. Staff Sergeant Tony "Scout" Rodriguez, a former Army Ranger whose reconnaissance training had kept him alive through 3 combat deployments, was conducting rapid tactical assessment of attack patterns, terrain features, and intervention possibilities. Animals showing advanced pack hunting behavior, he reported. Primary attacker maintaining grip, while secondary circles for optimal strike position. Standard animal deterrence will not be effective against trained fighters operating in coordination. The behavioral analysis revealed that these were not ordinary aggressive pets, but specialized weapons that had been conditioned through systematic abuse and training to attack and maintain engagement until their target was neutralized. Their tactics showed intelligence and training that exceeded typical animal aggression. The neighborhood crisis had been building for months as the dog's owner, Marcus Thompson, had been using them for illegal fighting while neglecting basic containment and control. Animal control had received dozens of complaints, but bureaucratic delays and inadequate legal frameworks had prevented effective intervention until the inevitable tragedy occurred. These dogs have been a neighborhood terror for 6 months, reported local resident Patricia Martinez during her frantic 911 call. They've gotten loose before and threatened people, but animal control keeps saying they can't do anything until someone gets hurt. Now they're killing a little girl. The systematic failure of traditional authorities had created conditions where trained fighting dogs could terrorize an entire residential area, while bureaucratic processes prevented intervention until a child was actually under attack and fighting for her life. Steele understood that conventional animal control protocols would result in Maria's death before help could arrive through traditional channels. The Iron Shield veterans had perhaps 90 seconds to execute a rescue that required military-level precision and the willingness to use lethal force against biological weapons that were designed to kill. Time to target, 45 seconds, Steele calculated as the veterans approached the attack site. Window for intervention, 60 seconds maximum before traumatic injuries become fatal. Lethal force authorization approved for hostile targets. Tell me, have you ever saved someone? Steele asked himself as he prepared for the most dangerous urban combat of his military and civilian career, knowing that failure meant watching a 7-year-old child die in one of the most horrific ways imaginable. The intervention strategy that followed would be studied by tactical teams and emergency responders for years to come. Steele's Marine training had taught him that close-quarters combat against multiple hostiles required overwhelming force, perfect timing, and the willingness to accept personal injury to protect others. "All units, coordinated assault pattern Alpha," Steele commanded as the Iron Shield veterans reached optimal positioning around the attack site. Doc and Bulldog, flanking positions for target isolation. Scout and Thunder, backup fire control. Everyone else, perimeter security and civilian protection. Lethal force is authorized and expected. 8 combat veterans dismounted their motorcycles and began executing a tactical assault against 2 fighting dogs that outweighed most military working dogs and had been specifically trained to ignore pain, fear, and intimidation while maintaining attack until death or victory. The initial contact was achieved when Steele and Bulldog simultaneously engaged the pit bulls using improvised weapons, steel tire irons and tactical knives, that allowed them to deliver lethal force while maintaining distance from the animal's crushing bite capability. "Primary target engaged," Steele announced as he struck the larger pit bull with devastating force, breaking its grip on Maria while absorbing a defensive bite that tore through his leather jacket but didn't penetrate to skin. "Target 1 neutralized, proceeding to target 2. The second pit bull's response was immediate and terrifying. Instead of retreating from the overwhelming human intervention, the animal redirected its attack towards Steele, demonstrating the kind of fearless aggression that made fighting dogs so dangerous in close-quarters combat. "Secondary target engaging primary rescuer," Bulldog reported as he moved to intercept the second dog's attack on Steele. "Coordinating lethal response to protect team leader and secure child extraction." If you've watched this far, say in the comments, what secret do you keep? The close-quarters battle between 8 combat veterans and 2 trained fighting dogs lasted only 90 seconds, but it required every technique the veterans had learned during their military careers. The dogs' training made them immune to intimidation and pain, forcing the rescuers to use lethal force to protect both Maria and themselves. "Both targets neutralized," Doc announced, as the second pit bull was killed through coordinated strikes from multiple veterans. "Child secured, immediate medical assessment required, possible traumatic injuries consistent with sustained attack by large predators." Maria Santos was conscious, but severely traumatized when Doc began his medical evaluation. Her thick winter coat and backpack had absorbed much of the attack damage, but she showed signs of shock and possible internal injuries that required immediate professional medical attention. Victim shows defensive wounds on arms and legs, possible rib fractures from impact trauma, severe psychological shock, but appears neurologically intact, Doc reported as he began emergency medical stabilization. "She's alive and responsive, but she needs immediate transport to pediatric trauma center." The medical assessment was complicated by Maria's terror and confusion as she processed what had happened to her. The 7-year-old had never experienced violence before, and the sudden transition from normal school day to life or death attack created trauma that would require specialized treatment. "Mija, you're safe now," Steele said gently in Spanish as he knelt beside Maria while Doc continued his medical examination. "The bad dogs can't hurt you anymore. We're going to take care of you." Maria's response was immediate and powerful. She reached for Steele with the instinctive trust that children give to adults who have protected them from mortal danger. Her small arms wrapped around his neck as she sobbed with relief and residual terror. "Thank you," she whispered in English mixed with Spanish. "They were trying to eat me." The civilian response to the rescue was immediate and overwhelming. Neighbors who had been paralyzed by fear during the attack emerged from their homes to thank the veterans and provide witness testimony about what they had observed. "Those men saved that little girl's life," reported neighborhood resident Dorothy Chen to arriving police officers. "Those dogs would have killed her if the bikers hadn't arrived when they did. We were all too scared to help, but they didn't hesitate to fight those animals." Vern, the witness testimony was crucial for documenting the justification for lethal force and the civilian protection that had motivated the veterans' intervention. Multiple residents provided detailed accounts of the attack and rescue that confirmed the immediate threat and the appropriateness of the response. If you're enjoying the story, write from which city you are listening to in the comments. The emergency response that followed brought paramedics, police, animal control, and child protective services to assess the situation and ensure that Maria received appropriate medical care, while the veterans faced potential legal consequences for using lethal force against animals in a residential area. Detective Lieutenant Maria Rodriguez of the Chicago Police Department was the primary investigator for the incident, and her assessment would determine whether the veterans faced criminal charges or were recognized as civilian heroes who had prevented a tragedy. Gentlemen, I need detailed statements from each of you about what happened here, Detective Rodriguez announced to the assembled veterans. You've killed 2 animals in a residential area, and I need to understand the justification and circumstances that led to lethal force. Steele provided a comprehensive account of the tactical situation, decision-making process, and intervention that had resulted in both dogs' deaths and Maria's rescue. His military bearing and professional presentation clearly indicated extensive training and experience in crisis management. Detective, those animals were systematically killing a 7-year-old child, Steele explained with calm authority. We assessed the threat, determined that conventional intervention would not be effective, and used appropriate force to neutralize hostile targets and protect innocent life. Reader, the professional nature of Steele's briefing impressed Detective Rodriguez, whose 15 years of police experience had taught her to recognize competent tactical thinking and legitimate use of force situations. The investigation that followed revealed the full extent of the neighborhood crisis that had been building around Marcus Thompson's illegal dogfighting operation. The 2 pit bulls had been specifically bred and trained for maximum aggression, with systematic conditioning that made them dangerous to any human contact. These dogs were weapons, not pets, reported Animal Control Officer Jennifer Walsh, after examining the animals' bodies and Thompson's property. They show evidence of steroid use, systematic training for fighting, and behavioral conditioning that made them completely unsuitable for any civilian contact. The criminal investigation into Thompson's activities revealed an illegal dogfighting ring that had been operating for over 2 years, with dozens of animals bred and trained specifically for violence. The dogs that attacked Maria had been among his most aggressive fighters. Mr. Thompson was running a significant criminal enterprise that endangered the entire community, reported FBI Special Agent Robert Martinez, whose investigation uncovered interstate trafficking in fighting dogs and associated criminal activities. But for the Iron Shield veterans, the legal vindication was secondary to the knowledge that they had saved a child's life and demonstrated that their military training could be applied to civilian protection in ways that conventional authorities couldn't match. Tell me, have you ever saved someone? Maria's parents asked each of the veterans when they arrived at the hospital, tears streaming down their faces as they realized how close they had come to losing their daughter. Into Chapter 1, Character Count, 35,000. Chapter 2, The Neighborhood Transformed. 6 months after the Iron Shield veterans had saved Maria Santos from the pit bull attack, the East Chicago neighborhood had transformed from a community living in fear into one of the safest residential areas in northwest Indiana, with the veterans establishing a permanent presence that provided security, emergency response, and community services that had attracted families from throughout the region who wanted to live somewhere that prioritized civilian protection. Steele Morrison sat in the Santos family living room, reviewing the latest community safety reports, while 7-year-old Maria worked on her homework at the kitchen table. chattering happily in both English and Spanish about her day at school and her excitement about the upcoming community safety fair that had become an annual celebration of the transformation that followed her rescue. The neighborhood crime statistics continue to exceed every projection we made, Steele reported to Maria's parents, Carlos and Rosa Santos, as he studied the latest law enforcement data from the Chicago Police Department. Violent crime is down 87%, property crime has decreased by 73%, and emergency response times have improved dramatically because we maintain constant communication with all local agencies. Maria looked up from her math homework and smiled at Steele, their bond having evolved from rescuer and victim to something deeper. He had become her protective uncle and mentor, while she had provided him with the sense of purpose and family connection that had been missing since his military discharge. The relationship between Maria and the Iron Shield veterans had grown far beyond the dramatic rescue that had brought them together. The 7-year-old had become the inspiration for their expanded community service mission that now included youth education, family support, emergency response, and the kind of comprehensive civilian protection that military training made them uniquely qualified to provide. "Tell me about the Maria Santos Community Safety Foundation," her mother Rosa requested, noting the detailed program materials spread across Steele's briefcase related to the non-profit organization that had been established to honor their daughter's survival and prevent other children from facing similar dangers. "We're now operating community safety programs in 43 neighborhoods across 7 states. Steele explained, with the satisfaction of someone who had found his true calling in civilian service. Maria's experience showed us that children face dangers that conventional authorities can't always address effectively, and that veterans have skills and commitment that can fill gaps in traditional protective services. The Maria Santos Community Safety Foundation represented something unprecedented in neighborhood security and child protection. Military veterans using their combat training and tactical expertise to develop comprehensive safety programs that could prevent attacks while providing rapid response capabilities that exceeded traditional law enforcement and emergency services. If you're enjoying the story, write from which city you are listening to in the comments. Dr. Patricia Chen, the trauma therapist who had been working with both Maria and the veterans since the Pitbull attack, was amazed by the mutual healing and community transformation that had resulted from their shared experience. Maria's recovery has been remarkable, but equally impressive is the way the veterans have channeled their protective instincts into sustained community service, she reported during a presentation to the American Association of Community Psychology. Their interventions saved one child, but the programs they've developed have protected hundreds of families. The secret to both Maria's remarkable recovery and the community's transformation was the veterans' understanding that protection required more than emergency response. It demanded ongoing commitment to building safer environments where children could grow up without fear and families could thrive with confidence. Dr. Chen's research had documented measurable improvements in Maria's psychological resilience, academic performance, and social confidence that correlated directly with her integration into the veterans' extended family structure and her role as an advocate for community safety education. Maria's case challenges conventional assumptions about childhood trauma recovery, Dr. Chen explained to colleagues studying innovative approaches to PTSD treatment in children. When trauma survivors are given meaningful roles in prevention and protection activities, their healing often exceeds what traditional therapy alone can achieve. Doc Patterson had become Maria's personal safety coordinator, using his Navy SEAL medical training to ensure her continued health, while also teaching her age-appropriate self-defense and emergency response skills that could protect her and help her assist others who might face dangers. Maria's not just learning safety skills, she's learning to be a protector, Doc explained to child development specialists who observed their training sessions. She understands that surviving the attack gives her knowledge and responsibility to help keep other children safe. The safety education that Maria received was carefully adapted for her age and emotional development, but it included real skills that could save lives if she or other children encountered dangerous situations in environments where adult protection wasn't immediately available. "Tell me, have you ever saved someone?" Maria asked Doc during one of their training sessions, eager to understand how she could use her experience to help other children avoid the terror she had survived. Doc's answer became a teaching moment about courage, service, and the responsibility that came with survival. "I've helped many people during my military service and with the Iron Shield," he explained. "But the most important lesson I've learned is that protecting people starts with caring about them and being prepared to help when they need it most." If you've watched this far, say in the comments, what secret do you keep? Bulldog Williams had applied his military police training to developing Maria's situational awareness and threat recognition skills, teaching her advanced techniques for identifying dangerous situations and responding appropriately that went far beyond typical child safety education. Maria faced the ultimate child predator threat and survived because good adults intervened, Bulldog explained to education conferences throughout the Midwest. Now she's learning skills that could help her avoid other dangerous situations and maybe help her protect other children who might need assistance. Bulldog's approach to Maria's education combined practical safety skills with confidence building that emphasized her strength and intelligence rather than her victim status. She was learning to see herself as a survivor and protector rather than someone who needed constant protection. Maria's safety awareness skills had advanced to levels that impressed professional security experts, but more importantly, she had developed the kind of calm confidence that could help her make good decisions under pressure and provide leadership when other children were frightened or confused. Scout Rodriguez had channeled his Army Ranger training into developing Maria's observation and communication abilities, teaching her to recognize and report suspicious activities that might indicate threats to community safety. Maria learned about dangerous situations the hard way, Scout explained to youth development professionals studying their programs. Now we're teaching her to use that experience to help protect her community by being aware of her environment and knowing how to get help when something doesn't seem right. The observation skills that Maria developed were applicable far beyond personal safety. She was learning to approach academic challenges, social situations, and family responsibilities using systematic thinking and environmental awareness that would serve her throughout her life. Maria's teachers at Roosevelt Elementary School reported that she showed exceptional leadership qualities, advanced problem-solving abilities, and a mature understanding of safety and responsibility that influenced her entire class positively. Maria has become a natural leader who helps other children understand safety and looking out for each other, observed her teacher, Mrs. Jennifer Rodriguez, during parent conferences. She's learned to think before acting, but she's also learned to speak up when she sees situations that might be dangerous. If you're enjoying the story, write from which city you are listening to in the comments. Thunder Martinez had established a comprehensive youth safety education program that taught children throughout the region practical skills for avoiding and surviving various types of dangerous situations while building their confidence and sense of community responsibility. Children like Maria face threats that adults often don't anticipate or prepare them for, Thunder explained during presentations to school districts throughout Indiana and Illinois. Our program teaches children practical skills for recognizing and responding to dangerous situations, while also building the kind of community awareness that can help protect everyone. The youth education program included age-appropriate instruction in threat recognition, emergency communication, basic self-defense, and coordination with adult protective networks that could provide immediate assistance when children encountered situations they couldn't handle alone. Maria had become the program's primary student instructor, helping other children learn safety skills while demonstrating that surviving scary experiences could make someone stronger and more capable rather than more fearful. Her participation in educational presentations throughout the region had inspired thousands of children to take safety education seriously. When Maria tells other kids about staying calm and trusting good adults during emergencies, they listen because she's actually survived something terrifying. Thunder observed during program evaluations. She's living proof that children can be brave and smart when they understand how to protect themselves and others. Phoenix Martinez had developed a specialized family safety program that taught entire families how to create safer home environments while developing emergency response capabilities that could protect all family members during various types of crises. Maria's family learned safety the hard way when their daughter was attacked by animals that the authorities couldn't control. Phoenix explained to community organizations throughout the Chicago metropolitan area. Our program helps families develop the knowledge and skills they need to protect themselves, while also contributing to broader community safety. The family safety program included instruction in home security, emergency planning, threat assessment, and coordination with community protective networks that could provide professional assistance when family capabilities were exceeded by the scope of threatening situations. Maria's family had become the program's demonstration family, showing other parents how safety education could enhance rather than limit children's development, while providing peace of mind that came from knowing they were prepared for various types of emergencies. "Tell me, have you ever saved someone?" Maria asked during family safety presentations, encouraging other children to understand their role in keeping their families safe and helping their communities be better places for everyone to live. If you've watched this far, say in the comments, what secret do you keep? Ranger Davis had expanded his combat engineering background to develop a comprehensive neighborhood security monitoring program that identified and addressed various types of threats before they could harm children and families. Maria's attack occurred in a neighborhood where dangerous animals had been threatening residents for months, but existing systems couldn't address the problem before it became a tragedy, Ranger explained to municipal officials throughout the region. Our monitoring program helps communities identify and resolve threats before they harm innocent people. The security monitoring program included regular threat assessments, community liaison activities, coordination with law enforcement and animal control agencies, and rapid response capabilities that could address problems that exceeded traditional municipal service capabilities. The program had identified and resolved dozens of potential threats throughout the Iron Shield service area, preventing conditions that could have led to attacks on children, elderly residents, and other vulnerable community members. Hawk Patterson had established a rapid response network that coordinated between Iron Shield veterans and traditional emergency services to provide immediate assistance when families faced crises that required specialized intervention or exceeded conventional response capabilities. Traditional emergency response systems work well for most situations, but some crises require specialized knowledge or immediate action that isn't available through conventional channels, Hawk explained to emergency services coordinators throughout Illinois and Indiana. Our network provides backup capabilities that can save lives when every second counts. The Rapid Response Network had already prevented several potential tragedies, including 3 cases involving aggressive animals, 2 home invasion attempts, and multiple medical emergencies where veterans training provided capabilities that enhanced traditional emergency medical services. If you're enjoying the story, write from which city you are listening to in the comments. The annual Maria Santos Day celebration had become the largest community safety event in northwest Indiana, bringing together thousands of families who had been touched by Maria's story or the Iron Shield's community safety programs. The event commemorated not just her rescue from the pit bulls, but the ongoing work that had grown from that terrifying afternoon. 6 months ago, bad dogs almost killed me, and these soldiers saved my life. Maria addressed the enormous crowd during the anniversary celebration, speaking with remarkable confidence for someone so young. Today, my Iron Shield family and I teach thousands of families how to be safe and help each other when scary things happen. The celebration included safety demonstrations, self-defense training, emergency response workshops, and testimonials from families who had used skills and knowledge gained through the Iron Shield's programs to prevent or survive dangerous situations. 8-year-old Marcus Chen shared his experience using Maria's safety training during a family camping trip. When we saw a strange man following our family at the state park, I remembered what Maria taught us about trusting our instincts and getting help from authorities. My parents called the park rangers, and they found out the man was a registered sex offender who wasn't supposed to be around children. Marcus's successful application of safety awareness using techniques taught in Maria's programs embodied everything the young girl and the Iron Shield veterans were working to achieve through their community education initiatives. 9-year-old Sofia Martinez told her story about helping during a neighborhood emergency. When Mrs. Garcia's house caught fire and she was trapped inside, I used the emergency communication skills Maria taught me to call 911 and guide the fire trucks to her house faster than they could have found it on their own. The community that had formed around Maria's rescue represented something unprecedented in urban safety services. A sustainable collaboration between military veterans, civilian families, emergency response agencies, and educational institutions that had created measurable improvements in safety and quality of life throughout the region. Local police captain Robert Williams spoke about the practical impact of the Iron Shield safety programs during the anniversary celebration. Before Maria's rescue and the Iron Shield's community programs, we responded to an average of 43 violent crime reports per month in this area, he testified. We now average fewer than 12 reports per month, and most of those are minor incidents that the community's increased awareness helps us resolve quickly. If you're enjoying the story, write from which city you are listening to in the comments. 2 years after the Pitbull attack, Maria Santos had been appointed as the youth spokesperson for the Illinois State Commission on Child Safety, where her programs and philosophy were being implemented throughout the state. The 7-year-old who had once faced death from trained fighting dogs was now influencing government policies that protected children throughout Illinois. The commission appointment represented official recognition of Maria's unique expertise and the effectiveness of the veteran-led approach to community safety that had grown from her rescue. But for Maria personally, it represented an opportunity to ensure that other children would never face the terror she had survived. Maria's survival and leadership have demonstrated that children can not only recover from traumatic experiences, but can become powerful advocates for protecting other children, commented Dr. Robert Martinez, the Commission's chair. Her programs show how military veterans and community members can work together to create safer environments for all children. Maria's first recommendation to the Commission was the establishment of state funding for community-based safety programs that combined veteran volunteer services with professional child protection and family support services. Her proposal was based on documented results from the Iron Shield's programs, rather than theoretical approaches to child safety. The Commission's unanimous approval of Maria's recommendations led to the creation of the Illinois Child Protection Initiative, a state-funded program that provided grants for veteran organizations to develop community safety education in coordination with schools, law enforcement, and social service agencies. The Iron Shield's community safety model had been adopted by veteran organizations in 12 states, creating a network of volunteer emergency responders who understood that protecting communities required specialized attention to the unique vulnerabilities that children faced in modern urban environments. Maria's work with the Commission required her to participate in meetings and presentations that challenged many adults, but her natural leadership abilities and her first-hand experience with violence made her an effective advocate for policies that addressed children's real safety needs. I can help lawmakers understand what children really need to be safe because I've been in the worst danger possible, and I know what it feels like to be helpless, Maria explained to Commission members during policy discussions. Adults make better decisions when they remember that children depend on them to create safe places where we can grow up without being afraid. Tell me, have you ever saved someone? Maria asked Commission members, challenging them to understand their responsibility for creating policies that could prevent children from experiencing the terror she had survived. If you've watched this far, say in the comments, what secret do you keep? 3 years after 8 motorcycles had converged on the sound of a child under attack, the ripple effects of Maria's rescue continued to spread throughout the Midwest and beyond. The Iron Shield's model of veteran-led community safety had been implemented in over 60 communities, creating a network of programs that had helped thousands of families develop safety skills while providing emergency response capabilities. The expansion had been carefully managed to ensure that safety standards and program effectiveness weren't compromised by rapid growth. New veteran chapters were required to complete extensive training in child protection, emergency response, and community liaison before being authorized to operate programs in their areas. The Iron Shield had grown to over 200 active members across 8 states, with chapters providing emergency response, safety education, family training, and youth development services that served tens of thousands of families annually. Their success with community safety programming had attracted support from major foundations and government agencies. Maria's influence extended beyond direct service delivery to fundamental changes in how communities understood the relationship between veteran capabilities and civilian protection needs. Her programs demonstrated that effective safety required coordination between military expertise, professional services, and community education. Maria taught us that every child saved from violence has the potential to save others. Steele reflected during his presentation at the National Conference on Community Safety. The girl we rescued from fighting dogs has created programs that protect thousands of children from all kinds of dangers that awareness and preparation can prevent. The presentation brought together over 4,000 professionals from around the world who were studying innovative approaches to community safety and child protection. Maria's story and the Iron Shield's programs had influenced safety policies in 15 countries. Maria, now 9 years old and serving as the Iron Shield's Director of Youth Safety Education, had been chosen to address the national conference. Her transformation from terrified victim to confident advocate represented the kind of growth that effective support and meaningful activity could inspire. 3 years ago, I almost died because bad people trained dogs to hurt children, Maria told the national audience with remarkable composure. Today, my Iron Shield family and I work every day to help families learn how to protect each other and make communities where children can be safe and happy. If you're enjoying the story, write from which city you are listening to in the comments. 5 years after her rescue from the pit bull attack, Maria Santos was serving as a youth consultant for the National Child Protection Administration while maintaining her role as a student leader in the Iron Shield's expanded education programs. The girl who had once faced death from weapons disguised as pets was now helping develop policies that protected children throughout the United States. The lesson I learned that day wasn't just that good people exist when you need help, Maria told audiences at the National Child Safety Conference, speaking with wisdom that exceeded her years. The lesson was that everyone has the responsibility to learn how to keep children safe, and that scary experiences can teach us how to protect other people from the same dangers. Maria's presentation included statistical analysis of 5 years of Iron Shield programs, over 40,000 families trained in safety skills, 30,000 children educated in threat recognition, 25,000 adults certified in emergency response, and documented prevention of over 150 serious incidents that could have resulted in child injuries or deaths. But Maria's presentation focused more on individual stories than statistics, specific examples of children who had used safety training to avoid dangerous situations, families who had protected themselves using skills learned through Iron Shield programs, and communities that had developed comprehensive safety networks that prevented tragedies. These aren't just success stories, Maria explained to the national audience with remarkable eloquence. These are proof that children can be safe when adults work together to create communities where everyone understands their responsibility to protect each other. The national attention had led to requests for technical assistance from child protection agencies throughout the world, as countries dealing with various forms of child endangerment wanted to understand how veteran organizations could enhance traditional protective services. 10 years after 8 bikers had heard a child scream and charged into mortal danger to save her, Maria Santos continued to serve as a safety advocate while pursuing her education and maintaining her role as an inspiration for the Iron Shield's expanded mission. The organization had trained community safety teams in 25 states and had influenced national policies for child protection and veteran community service. Tell me, have you ever saved someone? Maria's story asked everyone who heard it, challenging them to understand that heroism wasn't just for people with special training, but for anyone willing to act decisively when children needed protection. The street where Maria had been attacked had been renamed Iron Shield Boulevard in honor of the veterans who had saved her life and the safety programs that had grown from her rescue. A memorial garden commemorated the transformation from tragedy to triumph that had defined their community's experience. The 8 bikers who had stopped everything to fight trained killers with their bare hands had created a legacy that continued to protect children throughout America. Maria's story demonstrated that heroes could appear anywhere, that courage could transform not just individual lives, but entire communities, and that the most terrifying experiences could become the foundation for saving countless other innocent lives. Maria and the Iron Shield veterans had proven that when good people commit to protecting children, individual acts of bravery can grow into movements that change the world, and that sometimes the most important battles are fought not on distant battlefields, but on neighborhood streets, where innocent children need someone willing to risk everything for their protection.